Hello everyone, this is Dartt, and I just finished watching the developer Q&A with community manager Josh Allen and game director Ian Hazzikostas. Josh Allen mentioned an upcoming Q&A with Brian Holinka about PvP in a couple of weeks, and also an upcoming announcement about the 2017 esports, and then just dove right in. There's a lot to go over, so I'm going to do the same. First question. Are there any plans to make the Balance of Power skins account-wide in the future? If not, can we expect to see further alt catch-up mechanisms? They're not currently planning to make them account-wide. Those are intended to reward progress and accomplishments on a given character. Stuff that isn't relevant content has been changed, and that should step up the pace on completion of those. 30 Il'gynoth kills across all difficulties and still no hidden shadow appearance. When will bad luck protection be added for these? Actually, bad luck protection has been added for all raid drop appearances, but that's not retroactive. Do you think the 7.1.5 secondary weight changes were adequate or successful? Because the impact did not seem uniform, and 860 Arcana Crystal still beats trinkets up to 900 plus trinkets for some classes. Overall, the changes were successful according to Ian. They will certainly be more pronounced in 7.2. He also said the Arcana Crystal is a special case, and there's no way to fix that without underpowering all the trinkets. But if you want to farm Withered Gem for the max item level Titan Forged Arcana Crystal, good luck. However, its desirability should become less in the future. What's the reason behind making second traits on relics another layer of RNG? Okay, actually in 7.2, as you finish the last tier of research in your class order hall, you unlock a trait that adds a second trait to all relics. It creates more opportunities for desirable relics. That being said, you will not see one trait duplicated or doubled on a single relic. But the second trait will always be a throughput trait, according to Ian. Any chance we can see more relic drops or options? Currently choosing only by item level would be nice to choose by trait. They said that was mostly covered by the last question, and there should be a greater variety now than before. How come legendary items don't change their effect with the specialization, just like tier sets do nowadays? I'm sure you guys considered that during the development. What were the bad sides of that? Ian said it would be very convenient, but they shied away from it because they wanted to preserve the identity of the item. There were also some balance issues regarding loot tables, whereas legendaries were always targeted to your spec, but other item slots, especially teardrops, were not, so having to recalculate these for more legendaries that serve variable specs would have been a huge headache. Any plans for reducing the large barrier to spec swapping presented by legendaries? Having multiple legendaries for a single slot is just yet another mechanic that makes it different. I think the guy intended to say difficult to play multiple specs. And this was actually weighing on the developers' minds. So if you don't have a legendary that's specific to your spec, you will have an increased chance to receive your first two, rather than the old system that counted the amount of legendaries you had. After the first two, you default back to standard bad luck protection. Any plans on buffing underperforming legendaries? Enhancement bracers, for example, do literally nothing right now. The developers are paying attention, and some that are underperforming may need to be reevaluated, along with some that are clearly overpowered may need to be adjusted downwards. Ian did say that legendaries that focus on a certain talent build did still have value, but the numbers may need tuning. As many classes' ability to maintain competitiveness is dependent on having a best in-slot legendary combination, What are your plans to fix the problem of unlucky players being uncompetitive and benched by progression raids? Ian makes the argument that it's not the legendaries so much as how they're used, and he used the example of a healer using Cephas during the botanist encounter doing dispels on fetters. He said that was how they should be, rather than there being one universally dominant choice, and the raid leaders who bench players for being suboptimal were just awful. And this is where I'm going to have to butt in and say, whoa, time out. I can usually do pretty good DPS on my hunter, but recently I picked up the Mantle of Command, and I already had Qapla' for Beastmaster. I'm sure that a lot of hunters will nod their heads when I say, if you use these two in conjunction, you can effectively machine gun kill commands, and it shoots your DPS off the charts. Why wouldn't a raid leader want players who achieve that degree of synergy with their legendaries over players who were running what amounted to a couple of 940 item level stat ornaments? And it doesn't really matter what you do as a developer. Players are always going to be on the lookout for things they can do to break the tops off of the meters. But that's just my aside. Getting back to the Q&A. What are the plans for the craftable legendaries? Do you think there will be more than the 4 slated to come out in 7.2? Ian said there are only 4 planned: 1 cloth, 1 leather, 1 mail, and 1 plate. The goal was actually to help crafting professions because crafted gear and Obliterum's market had dwindled compared to enchanting, inscription, and alchemy. They'll be middle-of-the-road quality, but not top-of-the-list legendaries. You can use those to take the place of a legendary that would not have been useful on a given fight. Also, those will not count towards resetting bad luck protection for dropped legendaries. Next question. Why do developers insist on making AP a long-term system when it has so much effect on the game? First of all, artifact power is intended as a consolation reward to prevent you from feeling that your time was not wasted if you did not get a superior item upgrade, so that you were still moving towards a goal of an increasingly powerful artifact weapon. The fact that there was a clearly obtainable endpoint in the first iteration of the artifact talent trees turned things into a race to get there. At the same time, there is definitely something to be said for not wanting to feel obligated to keep running Maw of Souls over and over and over again, just to see you have that feeling of being finished. That being said, going forward, artifact power drops in plus 15, plus 20, and beyond, as well as the end-of-the-week chests, will be much higher. The developers definitely want people to push higher levels rather than farm the lower. Wouldn't it be better to make artifact power class-wide? Why must I gather all artifact power from the beginning for every specs weapon and stay far behind according to other players? Ian made the argument that you shouldn't just pick up an unempowered artifact weapon for the first time and have it suddenly be on par with one you've been using for months. However, even if you were splitting your artifact power between 2 weapons, you shouldn't be that far behind someone who is dumping all their artifact power into one. To go one further, being able to play a second spec gives you flexibility that could allow you to outperform the person who is locked into one spec in some fights. With 7.0 artifact power items being unusable on empowered artifacts, what will happen with Suramar artifact power rewards? Ian said, absolutely nothing. Artifact power items gained at artifact knowledge 25 or lower will be useless once you empower your artifact in 7.2. Empowering your artifact will unlock artifact knowledge level 26 and that whole progression. Are there plans to extend artifact knowledge to catch up in 7.2 to follow the same trend as the compendiums added in 7.1.5, or is that something for a later date? Ian said, Yes, new tombs will be added. So if you're at artifact knowledge level 40, you will be able to purchase level 35 and below. The Tier 20 set bonuses seem quite lackluster as a whole compared to Tier 19. And what are your thoughts on that? The Tier 19 bonuses had been in development since beta. The Tier 20 bonuses are relatively recent and still awaiting feedback and final tuning. They're definitely not ready for play, but they are open for discussion. Since there are now 6 pieces for each tier set, are players expected to wear 2-piece plus 4-piece combinations come 7.2, or will that be prevented somehow? They made tier sets 6 pieces for a couple of different reasons. First, they wanted to incorporate a cloak because they thought that would be cool, but also because of legendaries. If you have 2 slots taken with legendaries, you're going to need 6 pieces total to achieve a 4-piece bonus. There are no plans to preclude people from using 2 different set bonuses, but a good legendary should still outweigh that second bonus. Do you intend to release proper tank trinkets? Currently, most tanks are best off getting stat sticks or stat proc trinkets. The limitations on the tank trinkets make them unusable. He said certainly passive effects on trinkets are going to seem more convenient than on use. More trinkets are being designed right now, and the developers would welcome ideas and feedback. He stated plainly that on-use trinkets tended to work better for DPS, where they could be macroed into another cooldown to maximize their effectiveness, as opposed to the situation of a healer or tank, where it became more mentally taxing to try and gauge when exactly to use the effect to best benefit either the player or the raid. What was the design idea behind the new group buffing traits? Seems odd to give them to some instead of all specs. Ian said, really it's more for flavor, nothing pronounced enough where the expectation would be for people to alter their group composition. Okay, and this is probably my favorite question of the Q&A. Mythic Raiders seem to be burning out faster than ever due to the grind. Are there any plans to address that? Ian said that some of it was indeed definitely about artifact power, and there being a finish line that people felt they had to cross. He made a point about leaders and officers of various guilds being under enormous stress, and it looked for a moment like he was just going to walk away from the point and drop the mic at their feet. But he walked it back and reiterated that artifact power grind was definitely a horrible experience to put Mythic Raiders through. Then he turned right back around and walked that back to put more blame on guild leaders who invest too much time into those races. Or guild officers and raid leads that won't commit to a 5-day-a-week raid schedule, but force their players to suck up artifact power grinding. That's what we love about you, Ian, the fact that you're so clear about things. Now, my 2 cents. We as players are kind of like rats in a maze. The developers designed the maze. The artifact power grind is a part of it. Of course we're going to have to traverse that to a degree to be successful. It's kind of silly to fault us as players for doing what we have to do to beat the maze as it is designed. Okay, last question. Some world quests do not feel worth it. For example, rewarding 50 gold. Have you considered allowing those rewards to Warforge or Titanforge to up the reward? Ian said, yeah, that's a cool idea. We love RNG. Also, there could and probably should be quests that are upfront, more lucrative. They're definitely working on it and talking about it. That's all for this summary. Once again, this is Dartt. Like, comment, subscribe. Good luck. Have fun.